Urkel, of course, had famous catchphrases.
I think Did I Do That is actually bigger than the name title of the show.
Did I do that? Did I do that?
Because I still say, did I do that? I still do that.
The funny thing about Did I Do That is it really wasn't that big of a deal to us because
Really?
we started off with me saying excuse me to anything I bumped over. So if I knocked over something, I said excuse me to inanimate objects. That was work-wise, it was one episode. I took Laura to a French restaurant and I trashed that place. And that was the first episode where I consciously began playing with the audience.
Okay.
Like, oh, you're kind of my toy.
Got any cheese?
Hold up, what if I told you that one of TV's most iconic nerds almost didn't exist? That a last-minute role for a quirky boy in oversized glasses would change sitcom history and stir up so much backstage drama it could rival the juiciest soap opera? Yeah, we're diving deep into the wild journey of Family Matters' Jaleel White and the rise and fallout of Steve Urkel. You might think you know the story, but trust me, you don't. Let's rewind to 1989. The show Family Matters was already warming hearts with its feel-good vibes, but everything shifted in episode 12, when a pint-sized, suspenders-clad Jaleel White entered as Steve Urkel, a character intended for just one episode. Yup, one. Little did anyone know that this awkward teen would hijack the show and become a cultural phenomenon. But the real tea? Not everyone on set was thrilled about it. As Jaleel himself put it, Urkel was the goose that laid the golden egg, and nobody wanted to ruffle those feathers. The rapid rise of Steve Urkel sparked tensions behind the scenes, especially with cast members who suddenly found themselves sidelined. Reginald Vell Johnson and Jo Marie Payton, who played Carl and Harriet Winslow, didn't shy away from voicing their frustrations. Jo Marie even called working with Jaleel a challenge, while Jaleel clapped back in his memoir saying,
Yo, I gotta defend the integrity of what I did and how I performed and my professionalism. I had one sick day in 215 episodes.
I had one sick day in 215 episodes. 1. Was I difficult or just a perfectionist? But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Before Urkel fever took over, Jaleel was just a 12-year-old kid trying to break into Hollywood. He recalled showing up to the audition dressed as Steve, not Jaleel. I introduced myself in character, he laughed, and clearly, it worked.
Work-wise, it was one episode. I took Laura to a French restaurant and I trashed that place. And that was the first episode where I consciously began playing with the audience.
Okay.
After his first episode, a hilarious disaster date with Laura at a French restaurant, the audience went wild. Q Network executives scrambling to rewrite the script, Steve wasn't going anywhere. Urkel's catchphrases like, "Did I do that?" and "Got any cheese?" became instant hits. But what fans didn't see was the constant experimentation behind the scenes. We tried everything. Excuse me, when I bumped into stuff. Even I've fallen and I can't get up. But did I do that? Just stuck, Jaleel admitted. And boy, did it stick. It became bigger than the show's name itself. Tensions among the cast weren't just whispers, they were palpable. Jo Marie, for instance, frequently arrived late to table reads, which Jaleel subtly shaded in his memoir. I had to defend my professionalism, he said. People think I was the problem, but I showed up every day, ready to work. The tension escalated as Jaleel's role expanded. Enter Steve Urkel, Steve's suave alter ego. While fans swooned over Stefan's charm, Jaleel wasn't convinced. I thought Stefan was boring, he admitted.
I hit that door in that white suit, and the scream is still something that lives with me to this day.
But when I walked onto the set in that white suit and the audience screamed, that was a moment. In 1995, Jaleel appeared as Steve Urkel on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. This wasn't just a guest spot, it was a symbolic passing of the torch between two black sitcom giants, Jaleel and Will Smith. Will was the only actor who went out of his way to have me on his show, Jaleel revealed. But even here, he had regrets. I wore the glasses, I didn't have to, but I thought people wouldn't recognize me without them. Jaleel's life looks a lot different. He's a dad to 15-year-old Samaya, recently married and hosting Flipside, a game show that lets him flex his comedic chops. But a Family Matters reboot? Don't hold your breath.
I was offered a blind contract by one of our producers who was talking to the studio, and hey, you sign here, this is how much you'll get paid, and we'll go create the show. And that's where I had to push back. In my opinion, my humble opinion, the show that I would like to make is inspired by the book I just wrote.
Jaleel was offered a blind contract to bring the show back, but he turned it down. I've grown too much to go back to that format, he said. Instead, he's focusing on projects inspired by his memoir, Growing Up Urkel. And for anyone wondering, does Jaleel regret the legacy of Steve Urkel? Absolutely not. Urkel gave me everything, he said. I wouldn't be who I am today without him. But here's the kicker. For all the fame, fortune, and fanfare that Urkel brought, Jaleel still struggled with the box he was placed in. Despite countless roles after Family Matters, the shadow of those suspenders loomed large. "People couldn't separate me from Steve," he said in a recent interview. "Every audition I walked into, they didn't see Jaleel. They saw Urkel." Even Hollywood's biggest stars faced typecasting, but for Jaleel, it was a constant uphill battle to prove he was more than just the quirky kid with the high-pitched laugh. While fans adored Steve, Jaleel faced loneliness off-screen. "Growing up in the public eye wasn't easy. I was awkward, just like Steve, but in real life, it wasn't funny," he shared. At school, he struggled to fit in, often balancing the pressures of fame with a desire for normalcy. And while the world watched him grow up, they didn't see the challenges behind the scenes, the self-doubt, the scrutiny, and the pressure to always be on. It's a reminder that even icons are human, battling their own insecurities. From that little boy who walked into an audition dressed as a nerd to a seasoned actor, producer, and now author, his journey is nothing short of inspiring. Today, he embraces the legacy of Urkel with pride, but on his own terms. "I don't run from it anymore," he said. "Urkel opened doors, and now it's up to me to keep them open." With new projects on the horizon and a renewed sense of purpose, Jaleel White is living proof that reinvention is possible, even when the world tries to define you by one role. From a one-off guest role to a global phenomenon, Steve Urkel didn't just redefine a TV show, he defined an era. But the road to success wasn't without its bumps, bruises, and behind-the-scenes battles. Love him or hate him, one thing's for sure: Jaleel White and Steve Urkel are forever etched in pop culture history.